So this morning I sent my ClawdBot a message of the work that I needed to do today, and I sent this while I was in the gym from Telegram on my phone, and it has completed everything I need to do today. My name's Vaughan and I am an AI startup founder, and I have built over 30 plus apps, and I can tell you now, this is the most revolutionary AI tool you can use out there right now, so you need to learn how to use this, as this is the cutting edge. And unlike other AI tools, OpenClaw is an open source platform, meaning that this is free to use and almost anyone can contribute to making this thing better, so it's not hidden behind a capitalistic paywall. Anyone can go and get this and start using it completely free. And this isn't another LLM like ChatGPT or Claude. This is an infrastructure that sits on top of that LLM that allows the LLM to actually do real stuff on your computer and basically act as an employee that can go and do work on your behalf. But not just that, this thing has persistent memory across sessions, so it can remember everything you've said about it, so it is going to have complete context of your life. And this thing's actually pretty scary because it'll notice things that even you have forgot about. In this tutorial, I'm going to take you from a complete beginner to having this thing installed on your computer, fully working and ready to go by the end of this video. I'm going to go over the infrastructure, so how to set this thing up properly, how to set this thing up safely, most importantly. I'm going to show you how to integrate all the major channels that you would speak to this thing through. So if you want to use WhatsApp to speak to it, you want to use Telegram, Slack, whatever it is you use, I'm going to show you how to set that up. I'm going to show you how you can give this thing skills so it can go off and literally just do whatever you want it to do on specific tasks. How to give it control of your browser so it can act as you on the browser and log into any software that you need it to. And I'm going to explain to you how its memory actually works and how this is different to any other LLM. And not just this, but I'm going to go over the actual use cases for this thing, because basically, there's only two things we're going to use this thing for, and that is to make money or save time. And by the end of this video, you will have a fully working, up and running, 24/7 AI assistant working to you. So part one, and that is understanding how OpenClaw actually works. So I'm going to open up the backend for OpenClaw for you. So this is the backend of OpenClaw. So I can explain to you the actual infrastructure of how it works, because I've watched so many tutorials on YouTube and just leave the video still feeling confused and not knowing how it works. So I'm going to make it as clear as possible and simple for you to understand this thing. We will go over installation in a minute, but if you can imagine that you can use any LLM, so you can use Claude, ChatGPT, and you can plug it into this thing so we can chat with it, and that is going to act as a brain. So you can see this little brain icon up here. We can use any chat model inside here, but what I like to do is always use the best. I like to use Claude, but you're running on a budget, just use ChatGPT. But we'll go over that setup in a minute. But what this thing is doing through this section called channels is any messages that you send on any platform, or whatever you choose, Telegram, WhatsApp, it is routing all these messages to the LLM that you chose inside here, and then it is storing all the information on these chats, and it is learning, and we can get it to go and do things like schedule jobs. So these cron jobs, and the way I like to remember this is chronological, meaning, you know, it's scheduled, essentially it's on time. So we get this cron job, we can say to it, for example, I want you to scan Hacker News at 6 p.m. and, you know, give me a summary every day, or we can connect any channel we want here. And not just that, it can give this thing tools or skills to actually work with, to go out and carry out tasks with. So some of the tools that, you know, you probably want this thing to have is the ability to use a bash command. Now, if you don't know what that means, essentially just what you use, you know, when you code and when you're building apps, and if you ever use Claude Code or something like that, a bash command allows it to go and execute stuff using code. So we definitely want to give it the bash command. We definitely want to give it a browser command so it can open up, you know, a browser like this. I'm in Google Chrome right now, and it can basically act as me and click on buttons and click on websites and log into stuff, because that's going to essentially be the closest thing to AGI, because it's just going to act as us in the background. And, you know, nothing new, but what we would also want this thing to do is what Claude or ChatGPT can do. It can read and write files for us, but the difference here is that this thing can actually carry out scheduled jobs, which we can't do with Claude, we can't do with ChatGPT. So this is a special feature of it. And also, an important thing about this chat is when we do schedule jobs or we get it to do a certain task, this will send messages without us prompting it. So if you're using Claude or ChatGPT, you have to interact with it, you have to open up the web page, you have to send the message to get a response out of it. But this thing will go and complete a task, it'll work in the background and send you a message when it's done, or if it needs something from you, it's going to send you a message instead of you prompting it to get a message out of it. Now, if we go down to this skills section here, now this is important because, you know, don't let this confuse you, because there's over like 3,000 skills, I think, or something that we can actually plug into this thing that people have made. But all you do to incorporate a skill is we just chat with it, and I'm using Telegram, so I'm showing you the back-end interface now, but how I speak to it is actually through Telegram, which I'll show you in a minute. But to give it any skills, we literally just speak to it in Telegram and say, I want you to add this skill. So for example, if we wanted to connect it to Google Drive, so it could read what's ever in our Google Drive, or we want to connect it to Google Docs, so it can write Google Docs for us, or if we wanted to connect it to our Notion account, so it can create to-do lists and schedule boards, whatever you want to do with it, we can connect that skill so it can then access them platforms. And then another important feature about this thing, and just to represent, there's a little brain icon in the corner, but how the memory works on this thing is every session or whenever we speak to it, it's going to create a .md file, which stands for Markdown. Now, don't get confused. This basically just means it's going to create a big Google Doc with anything relevant that we said in that conversation, or all the data or the transcripts of that conversation, and it's going to store it inside its memory as a file called a .md. So therefore, if we open a new session, it can actually refer back to these and basically act on them as if there was a memory, as if they were memories of past conversations. So it's going to have complete context of what we're doing. Whereas if you go into something like ChatGPT or Claude, after a certain time period or after a certain context window, meaning the size of the session, how many messages you've sent to the LLM, it's going to forget what you're talking about, or it's going to have too much context and get confused. But this stores it in a way with an MD file, which LLMs really like and is easy to process and recall. And we'll get into it a little bit later, but it uses something called RAG, which is Retrieval Augmentation Generation, where basically it can search a database of words in a really cool way. So it stores data instead of just like a 2D spreadsheet, it stores it in, you imagine, this multi-dimensional space and can see contextual relationships between the data so it can recall it. Like it's building its own brain. Now, I was going to draw up a Miro board and try and do a cool diagram for you, but I don't seem to be that skilled in drawing with a mouse, and don't know how these people do it unless they've got some sort of like Apple pen. So I'm just going to share with you the flow of how this thing works. So instead of some squiggly lines on a screen, I got ChatGPT to present it a little bit better for me. So basically, I'm using Telegram, but this can be any channel that you want, WhatsApp, like whatever it is. You would send a message, this thing goes through to the gateway then receives it and loads any previous memory to basically draw on context. So say, for example, you say, I want you to go and research my competitors. Well, you might have a memory for a previous session where you listed all your competitors in the industry. So they're going to load this memory up, use it for context, and then it's going to decide what tools to actually use. And I will show you this later when we're actually setting it up, so stick around because this is going to be a golden piece of information for you. But then it's going to pick what AI models to use. So with ClawdBot, we can actually have a sort of master AI which runs other AIs. With something like Claude, Anthropic's Claude, that is, it's pretty expensive to use Sonnet 4.5 or Opus. If you're on the $20 a month plan, you're going to run out of tokens pretty quick. If you're on a more expensive plan, they're obviously more expensive. But what we can do is we can use this as the master brain, if you imagine like the manager, and then we can give it access to models from cheaper LLMs like Gemini or Codex to actually then go and write code. So they act as the employees, Claude acts as the brain, the manager, and then it sort of deploys these other employees with coding skills to go and build stuff for us. And whatever tools it's using, it can, like we talked about before, it can browse the web, it can read files, it can call APIs, it can query any data, and then it's going to put this in a response to us, which is going to send back to us on Telegram, and it's as simple as that. In terms of the infrastructure, what it's actually doing in the back end, that's how it works. And also, any important, information that it picks up, this will be automatically saved to the memory for us. And the beauty of this is that the way we might have ChatGPT, which has loads of context on what we're up to, or we might just use Claude for script writing, so that's really good at that. This puts everything in one place for us, so it has the ultimate context on us. All them years ago, when Siri was released, I think this is exactly what they were trying to do, but it obviously is absolutely terrible. So imagine this behind Siri, how powerful that would actually be. And I genuinely think in the next few years, you will literally just build apps by sending a voice note, which we're already doing. I already do that. But I mean, it will be very mainstream to not hire developers and literally just have a product manager speak in a voice note and have this thing built straight away. So it's good that you learn these skills now. And the fact you're watching this video, I know you're ahead, you're part of the gang. And if you did actually want, further information or full live walkthroughs or actually build stuff using this, I do have a school community which you can find below where you can jump on a one-to-one call with me, and you'll be surrounded by winners, and you'll be surrounded by other people who are starting their AI startup, and I can even help you get invest. But let's get back to the video. So part 2, and this is going to be installation. So all you're going to do is you're you're going to go to this website, which is OpenClaw.ai, and then depending on what platform you're on, I imagine most of you might be on a Mac or you'll be on a Windows computer. So in that instance, you can just copy this command that it has here. So you can press copy, and then you're going to open up, I think it's called the PowerShell on Windows, or you're going to open up the terminal on a Mac. Now, don't get worried if you've never done this before. It does look kind of nerdy and, daunting because it looks like codey. But you literally paste the prompt in like that. Now, I already have this installed, so it's probably going to tell me it's already installed. But then it's going to install all the packages that you need to run this thing. And then it's going to run you through a quick onboarding. Now, I do have another video on the channel, so I'll leave the link below. Watch that if you want to go through all these questions, because this video takes forever doing that. It's super simple, it's very intuitive. You just click the tools that you want to use, you press enter, next. It's going to run you through that process. So I'm not going to do that with you in this session, got another video on that. But once you've installed them packages, answered the questions on the onboarding, then it's going to load up this page that we've been in here. So next I'm going to show you how to actually connect a channel to it. So we're going to do Telegram in this one, but it's pretty similar for WhatsApp or whatever you want to use. But Telegram's going to be the best and probably the most secure right now if you're a complete beginner. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So when this is running and you're going to select Quick Start, it's going to ask you in this section, what you actually want to connect to. You're going to select Telegram, and then it's going to ask you for a Telegram token. So I'm going to show you how to get that. And if you skip past it in that section where I'll show you with the terminal, you can just do it from inside your chart. So you literally just go to chart and say, I want to connect a Telegram bot. So I said here, I want to connect a Telegram bot, can you give me the instructions? And that's the important thing with this thing. If you've ever stuck on something you're not sure how to use it, and this is how I learned to use it as well, is actually use it and it'll tell you how to do it. It'll give you instructions. So I'm going to press send. Now it's probably going to tell me you've already got a Telegram bot connected, so I'm just going to show you anyway. But all you're going to do is you're going to open up Telegram. So let's go to that. And actually, before I go any further, there's one thing I actually wanted to know. Before you go ahead and open the terminal, drop that command and install it, you need to decide which way you want to host it, because there's two ways of hosting this thing, and I'll give you the benefits of each of them. So you can run OpenClaw like I'm doing right now, which means it's just local, it just exists on your computer, but this is not the most secure way to do it. And this means that, this thing goes rogue. Basically, it has access to your personal computer with all your personal details on, your banking, whatever you're logged into. So there is a more secure way to do it, and that is to use something called a VPS, which stands for Virtual Private Server. So basically, you have your computer screen but in the cloud, and it is running on that basically. So you've got an imaginary, cloud computer somewhere running OpenClaw for you instead of actually running it on your personal computer. And that's super simple to do. So that's the first installation method, the local one, and this is the second one. So you're going to go to something called Hostinger. Now, I'm not sponsored by these, I don't have an affiliate link or anything, but they have recently caught on to how popular OpenClaw is getting, and they've made it super easy to actually integrate this thing. So I'm going to type in Hostinger, and then we're going to go to this top one here, and then where you can see this one-click OpenClaw, you want to do this before you install it on the terminal. So you're first of all going to just leave it as KV2M, you're going to press deploy, and now this is like $6.99 a month or whatever it'll be in dollars. Or, if you do want to go for an annual plan, do that as well, but, I wouldn't recommend doing that straight away, because figure out how much you're actually going to use this thing first. And then once you run through the steps of doing it here, you're going to press continue. So I'm just going to buy this with you now. So you're going to go see your cart, and then the location of the server, you probably want to have it as close as you can to you. So I'm in the UK, so I'm going to put it as that. And it's going to come to 10. There's loads of discount. YouTubers have got discount codes if you want to use them, but I'm just going to press continue. I'm going to sign in with Google because that is the most secure. Press continue. It's going to ask you for your card details, and then it's going to give you a token. So once you actually buy this server, it's going to open this for you, which, it looks the same if you run it on VPS. But then this in this section will say not connected, and where it'll say here, it'll just be like unconnected. So all you need to do is you speak to ClawdBot, you give it the token, and you say, give me the URL to paste, and it's going to give you a URL to paste up here. You literally just paste it in, and then this should turn green, and you'll get the health okay. And then that is up and running. Now, there's some further security measures we can actually go into, but I'm going to make a separate video on that because it gets pretty techy. In terms of running it locally and running it on VPS, that's all you need to know for now. You either open your terminal, drop the command in, or you go to Hostinger, you buy the server, follow the steps, you give it the token that it gives you in Hostinger. You're going to speak to the chat and you're going to say, give me a URL to paste. It's going to give you this URL, paste it up here in this window. and then it's going to be connected, and this should go green for you if it's not already. Also, what I forgot to mention, and you don't have to use hosting, this is just the first one that I found that is, designed for OpenClaw. You can use things like DigitalOcean or anything like that. They also have a one-click system. These have pre-configured firewalls or security hardening, essentially, which is going to help you keep this thing secure, because that is the main issue of this thing. Someone with slightly more knowledge than you can easily hack you on this thing. Now I'm going to show you how to set the Telegram up, so how we actually speak to this thing on Telegram. So right now, if I go to my Telegram account, I've just got this little chat here that I've give it a name. But basically, if I speak to this thing, I can say to it, give me the best practices to actually keep my Claude assistant secure in terms of API key security. And then I'm going to get responses. You can see it's typing, so it's speaking to my ClawdBot through Telegram, and then it's giving me this response. So basically, when we connect tools like GitHub, which is like Google Drive for code, to ClawdBot, we don't want to submit our API keys. Now, if you don't know what API keys are, it's a long piece of code, which is like a password, that allows you to connect something like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini to our ClawdBot. So we do not want to give everyone that key, because that means that they can run up our credits on our account, use our API key for their own apps, whatever they want to do, and we would get charged for that. So the best practice is just speak to this thing and say, I want you to never commit an API key to GitHub, and then it will know from then on not to commit your keys. And then also the other best security practice it's given us is a gateway access. So this is what I'm going to make a separate video on, but we can use something called Tailscale. So it involves opening up that terminal that I showed you before, and we're going to play around with basically the IP address, the port that it's using, the port meaning, when we open a localhost version of our ClawdBot, meaning we open it on our computer, it's not live on the internet, it's got its own little server that it's on, so we just need to configure that to make it safer, which I'm going to make another video on. So that's the suggestion it's given us. And also what we can say to this, and we can just do this with a simple command, is we can say, I want you to sandbox the environment, which means it'll basically act within a sandbox rather than just having open access to the computer. It's only going to act within a certain thing, basically like plan mode, where it's going to show us what it's going to do first in an isolated environment before it goes and does it wildly. But again, I diverge. Let's show you how to connect Telegram. So you're going to open up Telegram, you're going to put /botfather. So if you put /botfather, it's already there for me. You're going to press open, and then you're going to put /new bot here, and then we're just going to name the bot. So we're just going to call it ClawdBot test, and I'm just going to put 2 T's like that. And then we're going to give it a username. So the username has to end in _bot. So I'm going to call it, let's try this again, ClawdBot test. We're going to do _bot. So let's do that. And I will delete this afterwards, so there's no point trying to steal my key. But then it's going to give you this access token. So if you're still in the startup mode in the terminal of setting this up, then you can just drop it in there. But you've already got past that. Maybe you press skip because you're going to set the Telegram bot up later. We just take this message, this key, we go back to the chat section in OpenClaw, and we drop this key in and say, here is my Telegram token. I want you to connect my Telegram bot. It's going to say, cool, that's great. Now I need you to give me this other code. So I'm going to show you how to get the other code. So we go back to Telegram. And now, because we've created the bot, we actually just want to click this link that it gives us up here. So we're going to press this link, we're going to press start, and then we're just going to send it a message. We're going to say hello. And because we gave OpenClaw the token before, and because I haven't actually given the token to ClawdBot because I've already got it, but yours will do this, it will send you a message when you say hello with a pairing code. So just copy and paste the whole message that it gives you, drop it back into the chat, and then this thing is going to be connected and ready to go. So the message that Telegram gives you, so when you press hello, this is the message it's going to show here. I've just changed in this. This isn't my actual details, but it'll say, I want to communicate through Telegram. Here are the details for OpenClaw. So that's the message you would drop in this chat here. And then you're going to be connected. So something to be wary about as well in terms of security is you don't want to go and add your bot to group chats with other people, because they could do something called prompt injection, where a malicious actor or someone who knows how to prompt can basically write a prompt that this thing's going to read and could send your bank details to, or send your passwords, because it's going to be worded in a way that's going to trick the AI essentially. So don't add it to group chats, set it to private mode, never share your bot token, so don't let anyone have your API key that Telegram gives you. And also the memory, so everything it stores on you, you do not want to load into groups. That will only be loaded into private sessions, so only sessions where we're actually speaking to it here, back and forth. You do not want any memories or anything to be loaded into group chats that it's in. And then your firewalls, as I said, we're going to go over that in another video, but we would configure our firewall with hosting and with the terminal. But as I said, you know, a lot of these platforms just include it straight away, so you might not even need to worry about this. So quickly, I'm just going to go over one more channel that we can connect. So say, for example, you know, I say, I want to connect WhatsApp now. Can you give me instructions on how to do this? And, you know, if you're ever stuck on something, you literally just ask this thing and it's going to tell you. So basically, it's give us some long, complicated instructions here. But basically, you know, all you need to know about this section is here where it says pair with a QR code. You go to your WhatsApp settings, go to your linked devices, and you scan the WhatsApp code, and then it's going to connect your WhatsApp account for you. But be super careful with this because WhatsApp is obviously very personal. It's your personal phone number. You know, very personal messages on there. I do definitely recommend, as a beginner, go with Telegram, by far the easiest and by far the safest as a beginner. And you can also connect them here in this section in the dashboard, but we can just do it through Telegram now we've got that connected. So now let's go over the skills. So this is the skills section here. Now, right now, this is a fresh account. I set this up before the video for a demonstration, but we have our built-in skills here. So press this drop down till we've got passwords. So this enables us to essentially, you know, bypass passwords by using a one-time password. Apple Notes, so we can access all of our Apple Notes, organize them, find ideas, find stuff we missed, essentially. It can access our Apple reminders, so we, you know, set a task, a cron job where essentially we want something to happen on a schedule. It can connect to our Apple reminders, so we can actually get a live notification or, you know, alarm going off of when we actually need to do that task. We've then got a blog watcher, so this is, I've not actually used this tool, but obviously this is for reading blogs. And then you've got loads of other tools as well. So coding agent, you definitely want to do this because this is going to code for you in the background. Gemini, we can connect any of the tools from Gemini through here. GitHub, so any work that we've got that is, you know, code we've written using the bot, we can save that to GitHub, which is Google Drive, basically for code. And they have 50 of these built in already, but there is actually a store. You know, you can, an OpenAI image gen, you want to create images, but basically you can imagine skills are what make this thing powerful. Think of them like plugins for AI and allow your ClawdBot to speak to external services. Now, these are the built-in ones, but people can actually go and make their own skills. As I said, this is open source, meaning anyone can contribute to this project essentially and build custom stuff for it. So you imagine back in the gaming days where you can modify a lobby, a little bit similar to this. So we go back to the actual website, we go to the skills section. So these are all the built-in ones that they already have, 50 plus integrations, but we can also go and see what other people have built. So this is the skills library. So we press skills and plugins. So if we go to this web address, clawhub.ai, we can see all the skills that have already been built that we can just install straight away. And all we do, by the way, to install a skill, say we wanted to just do one of the generic ones that were already listed on our OpenClaw account, say we wanted to do, you know, OpenAI image gen, we just go back to our Telegram chat and say, I want you to help me integrate the skill for OpenAI image gen. It's going to run you through the instructions, or it's just going to do it automatically for you. So it's as simple as speaking to this thing to install a skill. You don't need to do anything. It might ask you for an API key, but that's probably going to be about it. So we can see all tools that other people have made on this platform, and we can integrate these for ourselves. So if I move myself up here, you know, you can literally find anything you want. Cling, so image generation, Manus monitor, using the Manus API so it can have its own monitor, radar, revenue dashboard. You know, there's literally so many things. We can get this thing to trade for us, send emails for us, literally anything you can think of. And if it doesn't exist, you can probably build it. Or you can probably find it on GitHub. But that's, for skills, pretty simple. Find a skill you want. Speak to your bot on Telegram or inside the actual console and say, I want to install this skill. Give it context. You can, you know, just send the URL of the skill you're looking at. Say it's this PD construction one. Drop this URL and say, I want to install this skill. And just, it might ask you to download the file first, and then you just give that file to it, and it's going to do it all for you. So the next thing that we're actually going to do with it is we're going to give this thing browser control. So what that means is we can basically get OpenClaw to have its own browser like this on Chrome, and it can go off and do tasks. It can log in as us and go on certain websites. It can do shopping for us. It can order stuff from Amazon. Pretty much anything we want it to do. But the important thing with this is we want to keep it very safe because, you know, essentially it's going to have access to all our personal data on our Chrome. So really we want to give it its own personal Chrome page where it doesn't have to interact with our data if we don't want it to. Now, there's two ways we can do this. So the first method is we can download an app called Docker. So it looks like this little whale. You're just going to open the app, sign in, just leave it open, make sure it's running in the background. You'll know it's running because it'll have a little whale symbol up here, just like this. And what we're going to do then is we just go to Telegram and we just say to it, I want to create a browser manager for OpenClaw through Docker. Can you give me the instructions for this? And then basically what it's going to do, it's going to give you some commands that you're going to copy and paste into your terminal. Now, don't worry, if you don't want to do this method, I'm going to show you a much easier method because there is an inbuilt Chrome extension that we can actually add to actually do this. But basically, it gives us commands like this. So we just copy this command, we go back to the terminal app on here, like this, and then we're just going to copy and paste each of these commands in, and then it's going to say that it's connected. And if it comes up with an error, we just copy the error out of the terminal, drop it into our Telegram chat, and it's going to answer it for us to make sure that there's nothing wrong. And then you just do them commands, and then it's going to open up a browser that just basically says like example.com, and that means it's connected. So this is what it will show up like. If we press command on that, we press open, it's going to open a browser that looks like this, and then that means that it's actually connected. So whenever we go back in the Telegram and say, I want you to research this website, I want you to go to Amazon, it's going to use this browser and it's going to go and research whatever website we want to do. But now I'm going to show you the easier method, which doesn't require you to copy commands into this terminal. So we can close this terminal. We don't need Docker for this. Well, I don't think so. But basically, you're going to go to this web address. So you're going to go to this web address. So it's docs.openclaw.ai/tools/Chrome extension, and then we're just going to copy this command that it gives us here to OpenClaw browser extension install. We're going to go back to the terminal. So I did actually lie, you do need the terminal for this, but it's easier than doing the Docker method, as this can come into a few errors. Although you could, even a non-technical person could easily work their way through the steps. This is going to be an easier one. So we're going to go terminal, we're going to open up the app, we're going to paste this command in, and then it should begin to install this extension for us. So let me just drag this over here like that. That's perfect. So it's running. And then we're going to take the second command that it gives us from the website. So let's copy this. And this is, as you can see here, install the extension for a stable local path. This means that it's basically built for the local version. So if you're running it on a VPS, you would do it a slightly different way. But as I recommended to you, if you're a beginner, I want you to do this locally first. And just don't give it loads of tools yet until you've got it secure. We're going to take this second command that it gives us. Going to go back to the terminal. Let's paste that in. So then we're going to go to Chrome extension settings, manage extensions. We're going to go and select developer mode up here, and then we're going to go to load unpacked, and then basically the package that it's installed here, you're just going to select the package here. So OpenClaw browser Chrome extension, you're going to go back to this section, you're going to press load unpacked, and then you're going to put this file path in, and then you're just going to press select, and you're going to do it that way. Now I'm not going to do this because I've already done it. Once you've done that, you'll be ready to go. So you're going to speak to the Telegram bot and say, I want you to do research on this, and then it's going to open that browser extension and use that to surf the web, and it's as simple as that. Now you can go with the Docker method, but you can go with that method. It's completely up to you. So now I wanted to go a little bit deeper into how the memory works. So at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that whenever you have a conversation with this thing, it stores it in a .md file, which stands for markdown file. But what it's actually doing is using something called RAG. So I've got a little diagram again, a little ChatGPT generated diagram. But it basically takes chunks of text, so whatever you said, breaks it up into little chunks, stores it in a vector database, and then it uses a hybrid search criteria. So it uses keyword matching, which is about 30% of the weighting behind it, and then it uses vector similarity. So this is semantics. So this is like the meaning behind words, which it uses to recall specific information that is relevant to what you're talking about from the vector database. So to give you a little visual of what a vector database looks like, it's basically storing, data in a three-dimensional space, and then that way it can see semantic relationships between stuff. So say, for example, apple, banana, pears, might be all to do with vegetables. So whenever we're talking about vegetables, it's going to go in here and find the bananas, the green apples, and make that relationship that we're talking, make that connection that we're talking about vegetables when we mention apples, or, well, they're actually fruit. So that's terrible. But when we're talking about fruit, it's going to make that connection. And, what OpenClaw does for you in the back end is it automatically puts this into this three-dimensional database for you called embedding, where it's going to chunk what you said down, spread it out into the database, and therefore it's going to use its search criteria, which I said 30% being keywords, 70% being semantic meanings, and that's going to allow it to recall memories, which is going to give your conversation context. Now, this is important to know because you might be thinking at this point, well, how is this, well, if you've not seen it already, how is this majorly different from Claude Code or something like that? Is this thing's gone, Claude Code or Claude Code is going to forget what you were talking about. It's going to lose context after a while, but this actually knows when the context is about to be full and can make smart decisions around that. So at this point, you should have your ClawdBot pretty much set up. We've connected to your Telegram. We've given it a remote browser. I've showed you how to install any skills that you want. Showed you how to host on a VPS. Showed you how to do it on a local. So I'm just going to quickly go over the skills again. So we've got the file read, so this can create, update files. The bash command, which it can basically, run permissions on your computer. You've got the browser. Obviously, you've got the memory read, which I've just explained to you. We've got your cron tasks, which I've showed you. So we can just say on Telegram, at 6 p.m. every day, I want you to give me a summary of what's going on in Hacker News. And then this would show up in your cron jobs here. So you can see a job that I've had on. And there we go. And there's one of my cron jobs. So now let's actually go over some real use cases that we can use this for. So the main thing I actually use this for is I'm trying to build my YouTube channel like you're watching now. So what I'm doing is getting it to research competitors overnight while I'm asleep and find out trending videos or things that are outliers using the vidIQ tool. So it's going to monitor all my competitors for them. And as you can see here, competitor monitoring. So it's got a webhook to an RSS feed, meaning it's basically just can speak to the URL. And whenever someone posts, it's going to analyze this and create a report on it. It's going to analyze the topic, the angle, the SEO strategy. And we can do this as a cron task. Now, a few other, things that I actually use this for. So mainly competitor, content research pipeline, which sort of falls under the same thing, but research videos for Instagram. You can do it for social media, content repurposing. So there's a tool out there called Blotato. So you can basically just get this thing to do that for you. You can get it to read your emails. Now, this is something that you've got to be very careful of, because someone can send you an email with a prompt on, then would trick the AI into potentially giving it, passwords or sensitive information. So really, if you're connecting your email and you want to give it its own personal email that's not connected to your normal email, as there's a lot of sort of like Binance scams and stuff, and you don't want people getting inside your crypto wallet because you connected this thing to your email. So if you want to connect your email, be careful. But this can basically scan your emails, find any subscriptions you've got going on, to summarize, the stuff that you need to read or you don't need to read. So that's a really cool thing for it. The research assistant, again, in the background doing tasks for you. It's basically going to be a full employee, or a code review. So you can get this thing to actually write code, commit it to GitHub, so Google Drive the code on its own, and it's going to do that in the background. But again, if these are tasks that you're doing in your daily job or whatever, you can set this as a cron task. So every morning it's just going to start doing your job for you, which just makes this thing insanely powerful. So, I think we pretty much covered anything. The only thing we haven't covered is agents, which I will do another separate video on that. But it's not important as a beginner. I didn't want to absolutely fry your brain in this first video because it is still fairly new. But you should have everything covered in this video. So if there's any other topics or there's anything else you want me to go deeper on, drop it in the comments and I'll make the video for you. And as I said, if you want some one-to-one mentorship or want me to help you set this up one-to-one, you can join the school community below. You can speak to me directly. And if you've got the AI startup idea already, I can help you build the idea and find investors for it as well. So hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.